You wake at 3:17 a.m. in a room that isn't home. 3 phones go off on the nightstand within the same second, and the first message you open has your real name stitched to a photograph taken less than an hour ago in a place you were certain nobody could see you. Outside, a car has been sitting with its headlights off since midnight. You can't tell if it belongs to a federal team, a rival crew, or someone inside your own operation who quietly stopped being on your side. Answer the message, and you confirm you're exactly who they think you are. Ignore it, and you lose the only warning you're going to get. Either way, somebody has just pulled on a thread you were sure you buried years ago. At level 1, nobody had ever heard your username. However far you've climbed since then, here's the part that should actually frighten you. It was never about how far. It's about how early they started counting. Level 1. The account no one reports. You are 17, or 24, or 41. It doesn't matter. The door is the same size for everyone. You are underestimated somewhere, in a job, or a house, or a family, and a screen gives you a version of yourself nobody talks over. The first thing you do with that power is small and ugly. A pile-on against a stranger who said the wrong thing online. A fake account built to humiliate someone who slighted you. A private photo passed around a group chat like currency. Nobody calls the police.
Nobody thinks to. The handle you use is the one you've had since middle school gaming forums. 3 letters, a number, a joke only you remember the meaning of. Changing it feels like admitting the old you did something wrong. So you keep it. You use it here. You'll use it again later, in places that matter more, without ever making the connection. You tell yourself this is nothing. You go back the next night to see what else nothing can get you.
Level 2. The complaint nobody reads yet. Somebody reports you, then somebody else does. The platform suspends the account, and you rebuild it in 9 minutes. Same handle with a 0 added at the end. You graduate from cruelty to commerce. A stolen login here, a hijacked account there, sold for $20 in a private server to someone who wants to impersonate a stranger for reasons you don't ask about. It is the first money that has ever felt disconnected from a job, a boss, a schedule. Somebody types "nice work" in the chat, and it lands harder than it should. It is also the first entry in a system built for exactly this. In the United States alone, more than 1 million people file cybercrime complaints in a single year now, nearly 3,000 a day, into a federal reporting pipeline that has quietly existed since the year 2000. Most of those reports go into a database, get a case number, and wait for a pattern to form around them.
Yours does too, filed by someone you've never met, describing an account you've already abandoned. You don't feel anything change. Nothing changes yet. Someone in the private server messages you directly for the first time. Bigger jobs, real money, if you're serious. You stare at it for a long time. You don't answer. You don't delete it either. Level 3. The first real money. You answer. The work gets a name attached to it. Not your real one, a better one you chose yourself this time. You learn to write the kind of email a company's finance department sends without thinking twice. Urgent, ordinary, signed by someone who exists. A bookkeeper somewhere moves a wire before end of day, the way she's been trained to when a request looks routine. The first time it works, real money, 5 figures, lands somewhere you control. And it does not feel like theft. It feels like proof you're smarter than the people who'd call it that. You buy something you don't need, just to prove to yourself it's real. You lie to your sister for the first time about where the money came from. Freelance work, you tell her. Consulting. She believes you, because she has no reason not to, and because you're good at sounding certain. Someone in your circle gets identified that month. Not through anything clever on the FBI's part, just because he'd reused an old email address for a burner account. The same address tied to his real name on a job site he forgot he ever used. Everyone laughs about how careless he was. Nobody in the chat asks whether they've made the same mistake somewhere further back. You don't ask either.
Level 4. The network notices you. You get invited into something with structure, a tiered operation, an intrusion crew that treats access like inventory. Usernames, passwords, and quiet footholds inside company networks bought, sold, and rented to whoever pays enough. You're no longer freelancing. You have a role, a cut, and people above you who don't use real names either, and who never ask yours. There's an initiation of sorts. Nothing dramatic, just a task to prove you're reliable, followed by access to a channel with rules stricter than any job you've had. Don't ask real names, don't discuss the work outside the channel, don't get greedy in ways that draw attention. You follow the rules. You feel for the first time like part of something instead of alone in a bedroom. Somewhere in a federal building, a case file gets opened with your alias listed as a person of interest, one name among dozens on a whiteboard nobody outside that room will ever see. You don't know that yet.
You wouldn't recognize the file number if it were printed on your own hand. Then a member of your crew goes quiet. No goodbye, no warning, just gone from every channel at once. 2 days later, a friend mentions, carefully, like it's a rumor and not a fact, that agents came to his apartment at 6 a.m. Nobody says his name out loud again. The channel keeps running like nothing happened, because for everyone left in it, nothing has. Yet. Level 5. The money leaves a trail now. You are, by any measure you'd have used a year ago, successful. Money moves through cryptocurrency now because it feels invisible. No bank asking where it came from. No wire transfer with your name attached. You watch a number on a screen grow past what your old job paid in a year, then past what it paid in 5. This is the level where the story quietly turns. A blockchain is not a hiding place. It is a public ledger that remembers every transaction forever, in full view of anyone with the patience to look. And the wallets you use to move money can be clustered, followed, and eventually connected to the one moment, just one, when you cashed out through an exchange that asked for a photo of your ID.
The very tool that let you scale up is the tool now writing your biography in a format nobody can edit or delete. This is also further along than you think. A case number was opened on your alias months before your best month ever. Analysts were already grouping your wallets into a pattern with a label on it while you were still telling yourself you were being careful. You built your empire believing you were early. You were already being read.
Level 6. Your name crosses a border. Your sister's message contains 6 words. 2 agents came to the house. You read it again. Then again. They asked when I saw you last. The phone begins ringing before you decide how to answer. For several seconds, you only watch her name move across the screen. Calling may tell investigators something. Ignoring her tells your sister something worse. You answer. She does not ask whether you are in trouble. She asks how much trouble you are in. You tell her it is a misunderstanding. This time, she does not immediately believe you. Minutes after the call ends, someone from the crew sends you a screenshot from court paperwork connected to an arrest in another country. Your alias appears once.
Buried near the bottom of the page. You are not named as a defendant. You are not identified as the target. You are simply connected to a server, an account, and someone who has already been arrested. That is enough. This is the point where an FBI investigation stops feeling like one office in one country. Evidence can move through international partners, court-authorized requests, shared intelligence, seized infrastructure, and arrests made thousands of miles from the original victims. The first Operation Kronos disruption involved law enforcement from 10 countries. Authorities took down 34 servers across 8 countries, while additional arrests and infrastructure actions occurred through international coordination. The network was global. So was the response. A crew member tells you not to return to your apartment. Another says the paperwork is fake and accuses someone of trying to create panic. A third person says nothing at all and deletes their account. You now have 3 options. Leave immediately and abandon the operation. Return home and pretend nothing has changed. Stay inside the crew long enough to learn who has been compromised. You choose the third, not because it is safest, because you can no longer tell which of the other 2 choices is safer. You tell your sister you are leaving town for work. The silence after the lie lasts longer than the lie itself. Then she says, "Do not call me until you can tell me the truth." The call ends. Your money is still growing. Your world has become smaller by one person.
Level 7. Someone in the room is talking. You enter the private channel and notice one additional administrator. The account has no profile image, no message history, and a creation date from years earlier. It looks old enough to be trusted and empty enough to mean nothing. The account posts one request: send current payment addresses.
Reconciliation issue. People begin replying. One address after another appears in the channel. You do not send yours. Your closest contact messages privately. Send it now or you're out. For years, being removed from this room was the thing you feared most. Now remaining inside feels worse. You send an address you have not used recently. The response arrives almost immediately. Too late. Then the account goes offline. Operation Chronos demonstrated what investigators can learn when they gain access to the infrastructure beneath a criminal service. The National Crime Agency later said information obtained from Lockbit systems helped identify 194 affiliates.
Europol reported that data taken from the platform showed more than 7,000 attacks had been built through the service between June 2022 and February 2024. Infrastructure does not reveal only the people who created it. It can reveal the people who trusted it, the people who logged in, the people who moved money through it, the people who assumed someone else was responsible for keeping it safe. Your private channel remains online. Messages continue arriving. New accounts replace the ones that disappeared. That is what frightens you most. If the system had gone dark, you would know it was over. Because it is still working, you cannot tell whether you were speaking to a colleague, a cooperating witness, or an investigator watching through a room the crew no longer controls. Your sister calls that night. The argument from your last conversation no longer matters. You want to answer. You want to hear a voice belonging to someone who knew you before the aliases, the wallets, and the sealed paperwork. You let it ring.
Not because you no longer trust her, because you no longer trust the connection between you. This is the life you imagined from the bedroom at level 1. Money, status, reach, and people who wait for your decisions. You can move value across borders. You cannot safely answer your sister's phone call. At 3:17 the following morning, all 3 phones begin buzzing at once.
Level 8. The Watchers Who Don't Blink. This is where the surveillance stops being digital. A car sits outside with the engine off for longer than errands take. A photograph turns up later in a file you'll never see until a lawyer shows it to you. You, on an ordinary Tuesday, ordering the same coffee you always order at the same time at the same counter. Nothing about your daily life has been private for a while now. You are simply the last one to find that out. A federal team knows which chair you sit in at that coffee shop. They know when you order food and roughly what you'll order. They know which relative you call when something goes wrong, because you've called her enough times from enough phones for the pattern to be obvious to anyone watching for it. You have more power and more reach than you've ever had, and less freedom than you had back in level 1, when nobody on Earth had heard your username. A warrant gets signed by a judge you will never meet, in a courthouse you've never entered. Nobody tells you when.
The room you started in. Same room, same 3 phones. Quiet now. The car outside never leaves. When the knock finally lands, it isn't a rival crew or someone from inside your operation. It is the federal team that already knew which door to stand behind. This was never the end of the story. It was only the moment the story caught up with you. Months later, a prosecutor lays out the case on a courtroom screen. The timeline does not begin with the wire fraud, the crypto wallets, or the crew. It begins at level 1, with the same 3 letters and 1 number you chose in 4 seconds because they sounded like nobody. You reuse them on an account connected to your last transaction. One thread runs from a forgotten forum post to a federal exhibit carrying your real name. Your sister sits in the second row. She listens to a stranger describe someone she no longer recognizes and searches for the version of you she grew up with. She still shows up every day. That is its own kind of sentence, one nobody reads aloud. Outside, the network replaces you without slowing down. New usernames fill the empty spaces. Somebody else even takes your old handle, 3 letters and a number that mean nothing to them. You spent 8 levels building a name careful enough to survive investigation, betrayal, and international pursuit. The only thing that finally identified you was the one you never bothered to change.